Welcome PPLers to week 3 of PPL Live. I'm Gino the Gent here to get you caught up on week 2 action and to preview week 3 in the PPL. So let's recap week 2. In the first matchup, the Argonauts with the big time performance from AJ Green, 3 touchdowns as they defeat the Mean Machine 132-120 in the prestige matchup of the week. In the next matchup, only for the boss in a leave no doubt performance led by Patrick Mahomes 40 beats Big C's Comeback Kids 171-105. Squad underestimated with the razor thin win against the Baby Gas team led by Saquon Barkley and his 14 catches on Sunday night. The United play as the Destroyers upset, appease the gods 101-79. And the Pantheon Cup champions, the Gaff Attack, defeat Patty's Twins 148-93, led by an all-star performance by Todd Gurley. So that was week 2, and now we're going to look forward into our week 3 action. The leave no doubt player of the week was Pat Mahomes. Mahomes was on fire in that week 2 matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers, leading the Boss to a big win, throwing for 326 yards and scoring 6 touchdowns. Yes, 6. Some guys can't get that all season long. This guy got it in one game against a Pittsburgh defense on the road. He's been highly impressive, and that's going to segue us into our first matchup of week 3. The Mean Machine taking on only for the Boss. The Boss left no doubt, and they really showed that the Kansas City Big Chiefin is going to be something that's going to be here to stay all season. And it's going to be a tactic that they're going to be willing to employ and be unapologetic about it. And when you put up 171 points, there's no reason to apologize to anyone. Pat Mahomes, I'm expecting more of the same from this guy, especially against the San Francisco defense who couldn't stop Matthew Stafford. I think Pat Mahomes in the home opener for the Chiefs is going to have a field day against that San Francisco defense. And, of course, that means Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce should also be busy. That's going to be a big, big help for the Boss. Now, this game has an over-under of 56, meaning that both teams are expected to combine for 56 points. That's a lot of points, and typically you wouldn't want to play a defense in that matchup. The Boss is still going to play the Kansas City Chiefs D, and judging by how Jimmy G played last week, giving up all those sacks, it may not be a bad play. I also like the Chiefs coach because although I love the 49ers, I don't think that they'll be able to stand up against that offense. A guy that got a lot of play last week and did very, very well, but wasn't actually, one of the first thoughts when you saw the Boss's explosion was Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs was awesome. The 75-yard bomb he caught from Kirk Cousins was a thing of beauty. I mean, that was probably one of the prettiest plays I've seen in the last few years. And Diggs is going to continue to provide that for the Boss. And he's a guy that is outside of that Kansas City sphere of influence. So he's going to hurt guys' feelings all year long, and he's got the quarterback that's going to put the ball on the money to him. I like the Boss's starts. I think Marvin Jones is a good start. Carlos Hyde on Thursday night looks like the Boss wants to go there. And they're going to continue to roll with the Chiefs. So the Boss is, I think, going to be tough just based on the fact that the Chiefs in a plus matchup should do very well. Now, on the Mean Machine side, he did pretty well considering that the defense brought him back. Chicago defense, I believe, scored like 20-something points on Monday night. And it was also a good play having Tyler Lockett in there, although Matthew Breida exploded, and it looks like he's in the Machines lineup this week. Breida shouldn't have too much trouble running on that Kansas City run defense. Their run defense isn't all that great. But I think San Francisco's going to have to throw a lot, and that may limit some of Breida's opportunities. But he is a good receiving back. Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara were good. They weren't great last week. They weren't as great as they were expected to be, especially against the weak defense. But Atlanta's defense and New Orleans itself is always going to be the kind of game that can turn into a shootout. So in that situation, the Machine should still be in good shape with his Twin Saints. Andrew Luck, I thought he was going to have a really big game last week. He didn't play bad from a real perspective, but from a fantasy perspective, it just wasn't enough. He had 2 touchdown passes, but he had a pick in the red zone, and he did struggle at certain points in that game. And it kind of slowed the Machine down. Looking around, Odell Beckham Jr. was a huge disappointment on Sunday night, I'm sure, for the Machine. Because you're banking on that guy to have a big game, especially against the Cowboys on a Sunday night. It was one throw he was wide open on that Eli just couldn't get to him. But the pass rush for Dallas was too much for the New York Giants, and the Giants could not protect the quarterback in time for Odell to throw the ball. I don't think that changes this week. I think Houston has a better pass rush than the Dallas Cowboys, so I think that it's going to still be a tough time for Manning to get the ball out. I don't think Odell will have as bad a week as he had last week, but he's going to still probably have a tough time. Kareem Hunt is actually going to probably play the biggest role in this matchup, because if Kareem is able to get a big game against the 49ers, and he's able to kind of negate some of the Boston's chief players, that is a huge swing in the direction of the mean machine. And that being said, looking around at this matchup, I would have to pick the mean machine just based on that. He's not depending on one matchup. Although the boss looks great, this one will be close. But I have the mean machine bouncing back after that loss of the Argonauts. I have them winning this matchup 118 to 99. I think that the boss comes back down to earth after leaving, no doubt. Moving on to our next matchup, we have Patty's Twins taking on Big C's Comeback Kids. All right, we move into the Omega Conference for this big showdown between two teams that have been to the Pantheon Cup within the last couple of years, the Twins and the Comeback Kids. On the Twins side, they get Aaron Rodgers to continue to play, although he is on a bad leg. I thought he still played well last week, despite the despite all the issues that they had. That's going to be something that they're going to need to continue with. But with the bad knee, he's going to take a lot more sacks than he typically would. That does hurt the Twins a little bit, but it's Aaron Rodgers. He's gonna still put up 300 yards and 2 or 3 TDs, and that's just something that you can't poo-poo. So you want to definitely hang with Aaron Rodgers. But the Twins are taking a different tack this week. Fortune favors the bold, and we'll see if it favors them. They're going to bench David Johnson. I'm always an advocate of playing your studs no matter what, but the Twins, they're fed up. The Arizona Cardinals, in her defense, have only gotten into the red zone twice in 2 weeks. That's terrible. And I mean, if you got a running back in an offense like that, it's kind of hard to trust them. So I can understand where the Twins are coming from. On that other end, Tevin Coleman, he had a pretty good game. I believe he had 100 yards rushing last week. And he's going to get another opportunity to be the bell cow for the Atlanta Falcons offense. He's projected to have a pretty good game, and I agree. I think that the Saints, they're having issues, and it's a home game for Atlanta, so I like Tevin there. Bernard is a great receiving back. Antonio Brown, despite the temper tantrum, I think they're going to try to get him involved on Monday night. He's going to want to show out. And then Keenan Allen, I think that he knows Aqib Talib. He knows Marcus Peters. Those guys are guys he played against for years, so I don't think he's going to have as tough a time against that Rams secondary as some people think. I think that game's going to actually be pretty high scoring and exciting. On the Big C's Comeback Kids side, I'm looking at Thompson. I think he's a really good play. I like that the boss is going to stick with that guy. He's probably his best running back while Devonta Freeman is out, which is not saying very much on the boss's side. Deshaun Watson, of course, is the leader of the team. He wasn't bad last week. He wasn't great last week. He was just kind of in the middle. They had a chance to win that game, and they just weren't able to pull it out. But Watson's still a very young player that's still learning, so I expect that he'll do better as the season progresses. I like Jarvis Landry a lot. What I don't understand from the kids' side is Kenyon Drake. He's on the bench again. Like I said, in the case of the Twins, I also believe it in the Comeback Kids case. You got to play your studs, especially a keeper. You don't really want to bench keepers this early in the season, but if you just really feel like that guy's not going to give you what you need, it's a very understandable thing. So this matchup is not very close one. In fact, I think it's going to be the lock of the week. I got Patty's Twins winning this matchup 115 to 104. The lock of the week, Patty's Twins.